Now let's start with some admin parts where the super admin has more control over what can be done within the system. Let's say even if let's say we start with creation of a user, maybe permitting him some roles or activating or suspending a user, all of that can be done as an admin. So I'm going to include that endpoints right now to start with this episode where we're going to have we already have the admin user controller, which has all of the resource functions needed for admin to do different tasks. We're going to extend this one, so some changes might be needed. I'm going to show what all things are going to happen here. So first thing first, I'm going to go to the api.php and make one modification over here where this is the endpoint that we were having a get. Instead of that, I'm going to call it. So whatever is going to happen, I'm going to show you. So let's say if you do php artisan api routes, you're going to see all of these endpoints right now, which is a less number. I mean, in terms of the number of things which you have implemented. You also have something called as get API admin users, this one. So I'm going to make it as a resource. So your resource instead of having it as a get, and the change it's just going to bring in is it's going to at least make our lives easier, where if I know that specific resource has to do certain task, I can take care of that. So if I again do an API routes, now you can see that it's not just having one endpoint of get. Instead, it's going to have API admin users, which fetches all of your user information. Then you have a post, which is more for creating, let's say, new user as an admin. There might be request which might come to me to create a user, so which I can take care. And then I can have a get function to just see what all are the details of a user, and then rest of the things, like if I need to update a user details, if a request comes to me, and let's say even to delete a user, if as an admin I need to let's say delete a user. And there are even scenarios where I might have to suspend a user for time being. If there are some things which are not let's say as per your system, if there are some compliance issues, then and then also reactivate the same user or some other user if he's in a suspended state of inactivity or something. So for that we need different endpoints for a super admin. Even a system admin can do some or most of it, but then let's focus on what a system or a super admin can do right now. So let's start with implementing these 5 endpoints. At least one we have already taken care, which is the get call, to look at all of the users who are existing in the system. So if I let's say again I log in as a super admin, so let me grab one of the users who's a super admin, this guy, and then if I execute, it's going to return a token, which I'm going to keep it at the top. Save this, and now as a super admin I already have the function of fetch all the users. It is showing all the users existing in the system, and now I can extend this and see what all, let's say if I want to create a user now. So instead of this get, if let's say I already have this post of users which is going to accept these many parameters, and it's going to be a post function. So I'm going to create that right now. So to start with, I'm going to say validator. We need a validator again, make, and this is going to accept all the requests, and then I do the validation, which is to look at what all parameters are coming through, which is again name. I think almost of whatever I'm looking at here should be available. So start with, it's going to be email maybe. So these are rules which I'm going to look at, and again the rules are more or less the same. Required as the first one, then string. Okay, this is going to be an email, and then it should be unique. In that, it should be unique within the users table for column ID. Column is email. I don't need anything more than that, I guess. So that's pretty much what I need for email field. Why is it giving an error? The problem is this semicolon. Okay, so this is what it is. I'm not limiting the email. Maybe it can end. Maybe we can also limit. If somebody wants to spam us, then maybe I can set the max to 30 or something. Not spam, at least if somebody wants to corrupt, but it's going to anyway be max of, I don't think anybody is going to have more than 30 characters for an email. If, let's see, and then I have the username, which is again a name parameter. I think I can just grab whatever I had earlier. No need to type everything again, but let's see. Required string, minimum 3 characters, max of maybe this name 30 again. First name similar. I think we can keep similar for first. Password is one parameter. That's also needed. It's a required parameter. Okay, I don't need this because this is being created by the admin. Admin can generate some password and send it to the user as a mail or something. So I'm just going to follow that convention. I'm not going to write that mail part today, but at least this implementation we can have. And then finally gender also. So this is more creating a user on behalf. Let's say the admin is asked to create a user. So that's the reason I'm exposing these endpoints. String, that's enough, I guess. Gender, anyway, we are restricting it with the values which is possible. So that's my first part. So if I can have a validator, then if this validation is succeeding, only then we proceed with the next steps. If not, validator fails, then I would directly return a response that this is a failure. So I can just send those errors to the user and you can do the corrective action for this. So errors, that's it. So this is one part. Next comes the regular part where we are going to update the user based on these credentials. So that's again a simple thing. So user, let's create the user first. So it's going to be user fetched. We are either trying to get the user if he is already existing or create him. So that's the first part. And if the user is not existing, so you are checking on, again, what is the key on which we are checking? We are seeing whether the user is existing with an email. If it is existing, then we are going to fetch that user and use that information. So I'm going to use the request email which we have received to check that. And next part is the updation of creation, where we are going to have, I'm just not going to create it once more. So maybe I'll just grab that code. Okay, it's not so difficult. So maybe I'll just create that name, request name we are fetching, and email. I don't know whether I need the email part again, but I'm just keeping it once more. And finally the password. So this is something I'm going to generate and then send to the user so that he can change it. So I might just say test@123. You can even generate a password and send it across if the user is creating it for the first time. If not, I'm just, for this sake, I'm just keeping it as tested rate 123. And then I can start updating the user profile as well, because I am the admin. I can also do that on behalf of the user if he's already providing me all the information to do that. So we'll do the same code which we had done for the other part, user profile, more like the same steps. Creation part, this was a user creation. I had a user profile creation over here. So I'm getting the user updating. This is more the update part, but creation is over here. So I can use this part itself even on the admin side. So this is more like first name, last name, gender, and I'm making the user active. So it's again going to be based on this user ID. If the user ID is already existing, I update it. If not, I create a user. So that's this part. So this will create the user now again, and I'm going to use the user assigned role for the user again, which is going to be a customer role again. So this is, let's say a request is to create a user first. Maybe we can make him proper, we can make him a customer later, or at least we can make him a store admin or anything later once we identify what is the specific role is. But to onboard him early, we can make him as a customer and then keep adding his roles later after we have created. So that's what we can do here. So maybe all of this code I can keep within a try catch block. This can be an HTTP exception, and then if that is the case, we throw this. Otherwise we keep this within the try block. That's it. And finally, after this user is created, we can just send that message back. So I'm just keeping this, copy the code which I already have. So like I said, maybe send a mail to the user about account creation and option to reset password. So we can readily send that to user. Maybe tell him that your account is created. Maybe now you can start logging in with the stem password and then reset your password once that is done. So that's more of an onboarding. Let's say if the user is a store, as an admin, if I am creating a user for another, let's say if we are initially onboarding some of the users, this might be needed for as a admin user or something. So that's pretty much the idea. So I am going, because we already have this resources and it's exposing this post already, API admin users, it is here, right? So I'm gonna use this to create and check this right now. So already this endpoint is created, and the function is already having the store. Within the store is where we have written like here, user profile, this, okay, not this, admin, store function is accepting all these, and we are in this API we are having admin user controller as a resource. So it's already exposing these endpoints. So I'm going to execute this, where this is the endpoint. It's a post function. Email, name, first name, last name, gender is passed, and I'm going to use, I have already logged in. So auth is inheriting from the stores API, which I had set here. So I am logged in already as a super admin. So I'm on the behalf of a user called another super admin. I'm going to create that, but I'm onboarding him right now as a customer. But I'll show you how to convert his role into something else pretty soon enough. So let's create this user created 26. So the code that you have written, so we should see user number 21 super admin being created here. So 26 I super admin, which I created now, is available. So that part is done. So we have created the user. Maybe let's write a code to fetch this user, to look at this user information, and some more bit we will write because I am also interested in showing you how to check his roles and permissions as well, because we already set the role for him as customer. So what all things can happen after that. So next step is, if I go back, I have this the show ID part, where I'm gonna pass an ID and then fetch his information. So this is pretty simple. It's plain same kind of code which we keep writing all the time. So if $user is checking for the existence of the user first. If user, I can always say user find find, pass the $ID. That should fetch me the user. If that user is existing, maybe okay, I can do one more thing. Okay, this is enough. We will write some other functions to, okay, this is find. If this user is not existing, I'm going to say throw new not found HTTP exception. User not found with ID equals $ID. So that user is not found. If the user is existing, then I'm going to return this user $this response JSON, okay, $this response item. We already have the transformer available with us, so I'm going to use that new user transformer. That's it. So I will expand this transformer a little more in a bit, but let me just show you what has happened right now. So I have one more endpoint created for the show. We already have the endpoint available. So let me go back to my get users call, which is again, this is all users. But if I just want to get a user based on the ID, right now the ID is 26, which is the user I created. If I have to see that details, so this is the user which I created now. Maybe it's already returning 200, so I don't need to pass the set status code or something. So this is what I created right now. So admin users 26, you can see this is the endpoint through the resources we created. User show admin users, the ID of the user, so that fetches the user. Again, if you want to update some data of the user, then okay, you can do the same. So you have maybe some of the things which might come for update might be first name or last name, those two fields, so which we have already done. The update code more or less is going to look the same. So I'm going to go to your user profile. Whatever I had written over here, I'm going to grab most of it. Like this is what the request is going to look like. These two things I'm going to grab, go back, and this is my admin user profile. This is my update call, and I also need to fetch the user, because earlier we are using the user with the token. That was more of a update by myself, me endpoints, but this is an admin endpoint, so I need to get the user again. So let me do that same bit of coding again. $user equals user find using the ID, and if not, let's throw that error again. Throw, come on, new HTTP not found exception, not found HTTP exception. User not found with ID equals $ID. So we're just saying that user is not existing. If not, he's all of that earlier code where validation of first name and updation of that user based on the first name is happening. If the last name is passed, if not empty, it comes through both of this, and then does again an update, and then finally we can say the user is updated. So again, both of those finally, if user updated, we can just pass that. Both of the updates are happening, and then I would say user updated successfully with 200 maybe. So response JSON 200, user updated. That's also done. So let's test that once. So we have the put users where I'm maybe passing super admin. So let's see what is existing in the database for this user before we update. So we have profile super admin it was, so maybe we'll have to change it to something else. Super soup at That was a user 10. Maybe this was 26 is the user we had to update it for. Updated for 26. It got updated for 2 users, I guess. So maybe let's refresh this Suspend. Yeah, I think it got updated even for this user 10. So that's possible because this is a super admin feature, so he can go and update anybody's user credentials. I'm just giving an option. Let's say if somebody asks him to make an update, but that's giving too much control. Maybe we can restrict some of it, and then based on a permission basis we can have it let the user itself update this instead of the admin or super admin. But then these are some of the things. This is more of an example to show you how the middleware can be used. Let's say if you different endpoints, how middleware can be used to do that. So let's say if I'm logging in as a customer, I will not be able to do any of it. Maybe I can show even that once we reach that. So because we have created the super admin right now, we need to give him permissions right now. But let's do one thing. Let's write some endpoints to see what all roles and permissions are available with this user right now. So for that, I'm going to create a couple of endpoints. Again, to start with, I'm going to say what is the roles available with this user and what are the permissions. So 2 endpoints I'm going to create. Again, within admin user, I'm going to go, maybe I can have it within another 2 classes created, user roles controller and permissions controller. This is more just for viewing, and I can have it maybe. So it's more of a viewing for myself as a super admin. I can see anybody. So for that, I'm going to create maybe I can call it as, because I was thinking I'll just call it as make controller. I'm going to create a controller for this, calling it admin roles controller, and I don't need it as an API because I'm just going to have some functions within it. Admin roles controller and admin permissions controller, maybe permissions controller. So 2 things. Maybe I could have added it within admin folder. It's like this. Maybe I can move it. Admin roles and admin permissions, moved it, but I might have to rename or at least pass the right admin. Namespaces are corrected. Okay, that should fix it. So controller, yeah, even here I guess. App HTTP controller. Okay, so that fixes it, and then I'm gonna add a get function or maybe an index. What can I call it? Show maybe. So I'm just going to create a function, call it show, and pass an ID. This is more for viewing the permissions or this is what roles of a user. So it's pretty simple to do that. I'm going to say $roles equals user find $ID. So if the user is existing, that's a first check. Maybe I'll just do the first check, which is user. If not user, then I can say throw new not found HTTP exception, user not found. Easy, simple, first step, done. But if the user is existing, if I want to see his roles, then that's the next step. So I can just maybe directly return this roles user. what is a function that I need to call? It's coming through the roles and the permissions, Laravel permissions, Laravel permissions, this itself, it's coming through Laravel permissions package itself. So it says get roles names. Get role names is the function which is going to return that. So let's see what is the response. So I need to add an endpoint for this. Admin roles controller is my endpoint, or at least the controller. I'm just going to say get, and I'm just going to pass users ID and all the roles for the user, and this is coming through the admin. So maybe I'll use the admin endpoint. It's easier to grab something and modify it. So this is going to be through admin roles controller and through the show function. So ideally this should be enough. It should show. Right now we have created a user of 26 and I have logged in as an admin, so I should be able to see the roles of the user. Maybe let me go to the endpoint which I have created specifically for this, then do an execute. Class admin roles controller that does not exist. Admin roles controller, is that the name I created? I think this could be the problem. I had given the wrong, yeah, so namespace was wrong, so now it should work. So this is a customer, that's pretty much what it returns. So permission roles controller is working. I don't think we need a transformer for this because it's right away sending me the value. Maybe the next part is to see how to see the permissions which is there for the user. So it's pretty much the same kind of code. I'm gonna grab this show, and then instead of this, so again finding the user. If he's not there, then return HTTP not found, HTTP exception, user is not found. If not, then I say, I think it's again get user roles, get user permissions is what gives the permission details. Get all permissions. So get all permissions will return all the permissions of this user. So again, I'll have to add an endpoint for this. I'm not gonna make any more of those blunders. Permissions, hopefully IONS permissions, and then this is going to be permissions controller and then show function. So if I go here and execute this, now this is for user 26. You can see the result. It was for some test data. So it's showing you all the permissions which is possible for this user. It's because it's a customer, he can view the products at this point. So that's only permission allowed for him. But then I don't need all of this information. So maybe I can break it down, or at least make it in a way that I'm just giving him. I'm just transforming some of its data. So I'm just gonna copy this and rename this to user permission.php, and then also rename over here user permission transformer. So it's going to generate only the ID and the name, like I have in the earlier case, like whatever you were seeing as a response in the last one. So I'm just going to do that. So this is my user permissions transformer, and within my controller I'm going to make that change right now, which is my auth controller, admin controller. If I go back, this is my permission. I was fetching everything here. Instead, I'm going to do something over here. I'm going to respond return $this response collection and pass these permissions, then have a transformer for the user permissions transformer. So this should ideally now modify it. Let's say let's execute that. User transmission performed not found, user permission transformer not found. Again, what is the problem? User permission transformer, it's not identifying. So in a hurry, I keep meeting all of these mistakes. Okay, I think I forgot. Hopefully we would have already realized it when you were looking at it. Transformer, but then yeah, when you are in a rush, this is what happens. Okay, that's what. So user is now transforming and then showing that profile data right now. Now at least the user's permissions are now transformed like this. So that's what I wanted to show with this one. So we also have the permissions part as well. So this is what I wanted to show. The next part is to show you how to modify a user's permission. So for that, I'm going to create the admission, or maybe I can have it even within user role controller. I'm going to have a function to change the user's role. So maybe I can call it change role for a user, and I'm going to pass the ID of the user, and then the transformation is happening. Even a request might be needed, because the request is going to come through the request is through which the user will send the permission required. Again, I'm going to pick up the user. If the user is not existing, we are again throwing that it's not available. Otherwise, if we are receiving the permission, we're going to update that for the user. So it's going to happen like user dot synchronize the permission. So the code is going to be like it's very simple code. It's going to be sync roles, and we can pass an array of roles for the user. So multiple roles can be passed, but at this point we are only looking at one role. So I can just say request dot role maybe. So that's what he will be receiving, and that's what will get updated. So the sync role is whatever it's going to do is, if there are existing roles for the user, then it's just going to replace them with this new roles. So that's what is going to happen. That's the reason I am using sync roles. Once that is done, maybe I can keep it in a try catch. Let's say if something goes wrong, so it's again going to be an HTTP exception, and I can throw that. If not, I'll just keep this within. If there are no issues, then it's going to remain here, sync roles. And finally, we can just respond back with the return $response. Okay, response JSON, and just say that with a message. It's a simple message that user permissions are updated or something. User roles are updated. It's enough, and we can maybe send status code. It's going to be again 200 itself. So if you want custom, you can apply whatever you need. Otherwise, this is the status code. So that's also done. So let's go to the last bit. So change role is what we have written. So maybe within the endpoint, we can have that too included as an endpoint $API. It's going to be a post, and I'm going to pass users. It's going to be a post call, so it's going to more remain like this get itself, and I'm just going to say roles, and the function name is going to be change role like we defined. So change role, That's it. I already have an endpoint for that. So whatever I'm going to do is to change the role of, this is going to be a get. So if you want to see right now, okay, what went wrong? This is syntax error somewhere. Okay, I think this one. Okay, so this currently it is a customer role, so I'm going to modify it. I'm going to change that role. So I already have an endpoint here, so it's going to be for user 26. So watch out for user 26. I'm going to make him a super admin. 26 roles. I'm updating with this function. I'm saying this undefined method change role. So what did I create as function name? Let's go back every time. Okay, this is going to be Ethan roles controller. Again a mistake. User roles are updated. So if I go back to my get call, ideally it should give me the current role of the user. So 26 updated is super admin. That's also done. So we are very close to two more things which we need to do, which is validate, suspending and maybe reactivating the user. Those two things are what we are going to do right now. So let's go to the last two bits of work which is pending right now, which is more of suspending a user who's existing and then maybe reinstating his account. So for that I'm going to create a couple of more endpoints. So let me refer whatever I had created. It's going to be activate and suspend two more endpoints, which is going to be there in our auth user controller. I'm going to create two functions over here. So we did not do a destroy yet. So if I had to delete a user, let's also take care of that, because I had created an endpoint for that, but we never used it to delete a user. So again, that's a simple code for an admin. It's more like get the user, delete. That's it. So nothing more. So I'm just gonna grab that code and pretty quickly finish that, because I can maybe explain whatever is happening there. It's a simple code, nothing more major over here. So if again for destroy, if I find a user and if the user is not existing, return. If not, I delete the user. But this is more like a user ID I know, and I'm just trying to delete it. So user deleted. So it's a simple. So next part, maybe if you want to test that, I have this admin user credentials. Maybe the 26 user which we created, we can readily delete that user and check that. Delete user deleted. So if I go back to my database, 26 should be disappearing. So he's not there. 26 is gone. So that's delete. And let's create the other two ones, which is more to suspend a user. Let's say this is more of a suspension temporarily, and the next one is activate. So more the cases where a user is created, but then if let's say this is valid maybe for a store creation or something, where if I'm creating a store, if my store and the user has to be activated, this comes here. So suspend is the first part we are going to see. So again, for suspend I need an ID, even for activate I need an ID. And for suspend, first thing is I grab the user, and if the user is existing, again let's do it within a try catch block, and there's going to be an HTTP exception. And if the user is existing, then I'm going to suspend this. That means I'm going to access his user profile, because we had created something called as an active for the user, and I'm just going to say update maybe, because if the user is existing, I'm just going to update, or maybe I can do a create or update, and then pass. First thing is the user ID as a parent, and use this ID which is passed, $ID, and next part is to update, which is on the active, and I'm just going to call it false. So this user is now inactive. that's pretty much what we need to do to suspend, and then finally I can respond back with response, return response JSON, and I can say user suspended successfully. Message, maybe I would need for which user, right? So maybe I'll give a response back and say message user suspended with ID equals maybe user suspended successfully, and then I can pass ID separately so that if somebody wants to update their user interface, they can use it. So ID return, and then I can pass this over here instead of this $response status code. I don't need, because okay, I can pass it over here 200. That's it. So suspension is happening here, and then the other part which is I can directly grab this code itself and then say this is true, means I'm reactivating the user, which is that otherwise I'm just activating a user who was suspended maybe, or it's for a newly created user. If I have to again activate somewhere, that's where I'm going to use these two functions. So suspend and activate, two functions I created. I'm going to include the endpoints over here, maybe closer to this one, but this is within admin. User controller, I guess, and I have this suspend function. So I'm just going to say users ID suspend, and this one again, the next one will be activate. I will call it activate, I guess. So two endpoints, which is a post call I'm creating. Two endpoints created to suspend and activate a user. So maybe let's do that to any of these users. Maybe user 21 is inactive right now. Maybe we can activate him, and user maybe 20 we can suspend first. So let's do that. So the user 20, if you keep a watch, and I need to suspend user 20. Right now that user is not suspended. Okay, why am I modifying this? Maybe I'll delete this, don't save. I already have a couple of endpoints for that. Where did that go? Users, roles, this is creation. Okay, I don't have it maybe. So then I'm going to create two endpoints for that. So this is users, add request. Then I'm going to grab any of these ones, maybe permissions. 20 is what we were looking at. So suspend, I'm just going to call this as suspend, and it's going to be a post call. I'm going to save this, and its auth is going to be inheriting from the parent, which is again, so 20 is suspend. So let's do a suspend for this. User not found, so 26 it is. Then okay, yeah, that's good. So one validation we did. 20 call to an unidentified function, create or update. I think I made a mistake there. I think it should be update. Okay, it's the other way. So update or create. So maybe go back to my user update or create, both places I'm going to do that. And then maybe let's now do this. Column not found. Okay. That's bad. I think update or create. Let's do that again in case I messed it up, because it should be like this. Put a comma, so now it should be fine, hopefully. 20 is suspended, that's cool. So 0 it is, if you can't see. That was the mistake I made. It's again, I think I can use the user ID itself. That's what I'm querying and looking at. And now let's do the next bit, which is activate. So maybe I'll copy this, duplicate. Instead of this, I'll call the activate. And passing this, it should activate user number 20 again, maybe, because he was inactive. Send, it should be set to 1 back. Let's go back. User 20, Richie is 0, refresh. User 20 is set back to 1. So this is also working. So some of the features which we wanted to do today is complete. We had lots of features implemented today, which was based on the roles for an admin as well as for a logged in user. That's what we implemented today on the API side. More things are coming in the next episode, but this is a good start, I guess, where you can do lots of stuff with the permissions and setting up a relationship between a user and a user profile, how to create a seed, which was very interesting. If you had looked at it, you have the user seeder. How can you attach, let's say, when to create dummy values, or at least the fake users for you to initially test. And even we created some of the users by creating all these endpoints. And then and one of the good part about Postman, which I realized, is it becomes easy to manage all the endpoints which you are creating, because I have created maybe 50-60 endpoints already to test. And then as when I started keeping it within this collection, it became easier for me to manage all of this. So this was some of the lessons learned during the journey of my creation of Stores API. More things are coming up, more complex use cases, where if you're going to have relationship between, let's say, a user starting with, and then the stores, brands, product lines, products, SKUs, stock, order table, lots of things are coming up, which is going to be a complex use case for handling. But then with Eloquent, you will see that many of the things are pretty much easy to query, and then that's one interesting part. So that's coming up pretty soon in the coming episodes. Maybe we'll have to spend more time to complete this, but then we have reached a state where this is taking shape right now. I guess this is helpful. Keep subscribed, like this episode if you liked it, share it if you can, and then keep coming back for more episodes. So until the next episode, it's bye from me.